J-Bone Nation. Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester. The court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case.
All right, y'all. Welcome back for the afternoon sesh. And once again, we're joined by our fabulous and brilliant guest, Andrea Burkhart. And just so
who
you
I'm
guys
sure is glad to hear that Jay gets laid.
I didn't write that song, and
Listen.
my wife, by the way, is just about to hit 3,000 subs, folks. If you could get, she's at
do it.
She is the one that
2.99.
gets him laid. So
Exactly.
And Bob, did you know I had this soundbite now? I added it to your stream, buddy.
My shit, man. It's my shit. Well,
It's on the loop.
Mr.
Sorry,
Cartier.
A
Mr.
loop,
Cartier.
sorry.
All right, so for as people are coming back into the stream here, just so we're clear here, Jay is my trial partner on this. We are streaming this trial, alternating on our channels every other day. Today is my day. Tomorrow's Jay's day. So if y'all haven't subbed to my boy Jay's channel, please do. We'll be dropping it intermittently throughout the chat, all throughout the afternoon. So make sure you're following Jay. Also, Andrea has an amazing Twitter account and YouTube channel. Both will also be dropping those links all day for the rest of the afternoon in the chat. Make sure that you guys are subbing to both of them. They're both phenomenal. Jay's my brother from another mother. He's been quiet today out of deference, not because Jay's feeling bad.
I'm fine, guys. I got three amazing legal minds. I'm going to let them talk about the stuff that's happening, and I'll occasionally comment when someone's last name is Seaman. Maybe I'll hop in.
But I have to tell you, like I was very heartened, and I felt the love from the community because people were like, "What's wrong with Jay? Like, what is Jay okay?"
I'm fine, guys.
With Jay?
I'm
Jay
pretty
is
sure they were
fine.
joking.
No,
Bob,
sarcastic.
It's
They were
live.
not
I don't know if
joking.
you're keeping an eye, Bob, but I just saw the judge.
That's the way they get Jay to speak up. They're like, "Is something wrong with Jay?" They don't think they
rolling?
really thought something was wrong with Jay.
I'm good, guys. Thank you for the concern.
All right, let me see. Am I on the right?
Oh,
Okay.
Lord.
Okay, we're going up. We're good.
I did better.
You did awesome. He's seriously working right now.
And I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
Look at her.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever
Nice,
you're ready.
Dizzy.
Thanks, Mom.
Now, Ms. McCabe, if I could take you back just to a little bit from where we had left off. When you arrived at the residence at 34 Fairview Road, you pulled into the driveway, is that correct?
I believe so.
And obviously, on that date, you were familiar with the types of vehicles that your parents drove?
Yes.
And did you see any of your parents' vehicles at the home when you pulled in and parked in the driveway?
No.
And when you got to the house at any point, did you exit the car or go inside the house?
No.
So you texted him that you were there, and you stayed in the car, and he came out.
Yes.
And when Colin came out to the car, what, if any, observations did you make of him in regards to his sobriety, as far as what, if any, observations did you make with respect to that?
Normal.
Didn't seem overly intoxicated to you?
No.
And as far as his face or features, or from whatever you could see, what, if any, injuries did you observe on Colin when he came out?
None.
And how would you describe his demeanor when he came out and he got into the car?
Normal.
Now, during the course, you drove from the Fairview home to Colin's house, is that right?
Yes.
And where was Colin living at that point?
I don't know the address, but his new house, not the one where he was neighbors with John, the newer house.
And if you could, just generally speaking, where was that in relation to the town of Canton? What was it?
It's in the center of town, close to the library.
And do you recall, or do you know what type of residence that is?
Yes, it's like condos. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, townhouses.
As far as your drive from the residence in Fairview to Collins' house, did you make any stops along the way?
No,
About how long a drive is it from Fairview to Collins' house?
7 minutes, 5 minutes.
And when you arrived there, what did you observe Collins do?
Got out of the car, went inside, got the key, locked it, went inside.
And is that something as far as, did you wait for him to get inside?
Yes.
And why was it?
I always wait for him because it's like how he has to open the first door to get inside. So I usually just wait for everyone to get inside.
And during the car ride from Fairview to Collins' house, do you recall anything specific about, did you have a conversation with him?
Probably. I don't remember what we were talking about.
And then following that, where did you go?
I believe home.
And when you got home, were either of your parents home at that point?
No,
Do you know about what time it was that you got?
not exactly. I would estimate a little bit before 12:30, around that time.
And at any point in time over the rest of the course of that evening, did you see your parents? Did you talk to your parents or anything like that?
I know I talked to my dad on the phone when we found the dog. Other than that, no.
And so after your return home, when you went to bed or you went to sleep, were your parents home at that point?
No.
About how much time was it between the time when you got home, around 12:30 or so, and when you went to sleep?
Not long. I don't know.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, at some point you woke up, correct?
Yes.
And were your parents home at that point?
Yes.
And were both of your parents home at that point?
Yes.
Do you know about what time it was that you woke up the next day?
No, I do not.
Now, Mr. McCabe, at some point in August of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with some troopers from the state police?
Yes, I believe I'm not sure what time, but on a Zoom.
And was that one trooper or more than one trooper or something?
I believe 2. I'm not sure.
Do you recall any of the names of any of those troopers?
Yuri maybe was one of them. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, just gonna wait for that. Now, ma'am, following that meeting that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide to them from your phone?
Text messages with Colin, maybe pictures. I don't know. Definitely the text messages.
Did he ask you for nudes?
And before we get to that, just as far as your
that's
phone, what kind of phone did you have at that time?
Proctor's always nudes.
I believe an iPhone 14 Pro Max, maybe.
And I should have been more specific as far as the time, but the iPhone you're talking about as far as the Pro Max, was that in January of 2020?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or in September, August of 2020?
That was in August.
And between January of 2022 and August of 2023, did you have the same phone throughout that time period?
I'm not sure. I believe I upgraded. Yeah.
And when you upgraded your phone, what, if any, data sort of carried over from the old phone to the new phone?
Everything.
So as far as chats or text messages or phone contacts, things like that, all of that transferred from one phone to the new phone?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Am I nuts? Or did she just testify that Matt and Jen McCabe were already home when she got home at 12:30?
No, she said they weren't home. They were there in the morning when she woke up.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I asked. Because my head was about to explode.
And so first, ma'am, I'm going to show you a two-page document to actually go take a look at it and look over.
Okay.
Here's the text.
And do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
This is from my phone, my text messages.
And the second page, what is that?
Colin's contact information.
Are those screenshots that you took from your phone and provided to the troopers in August of 2023?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes.
May I approach again now?
Yes.
Almost seek to introduce the as objection that has to be heard.
Okay, come on up and bring that.
He's going to object on authenticity because it's a screenshot. It's not an extraction. I would guess.
It's a good objection too.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sent
Why
me
doesn't he just use it to refresh your recollection then on the time?
Because he wants it in. He wants the jury to see it.
Somebody sent me this screen grab yesterday. I didn't know who it was, like whose phone it was from. Whoever sent it to me thought it was somebody else's phone. Like they didn't know that it was Allie
What
McCabe's.
time is it? Do you remember?
Yeah.
12, yeah, it's like 12:10, 12:20, something like that. I think it's
Right.
12:20 when he texts here or she texts here.
Yeah, or like 12:17 or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's right in there.
Yep.
Yeah, because the problem with the screenshot is you don't know it's the complete conversation. You can go back in and be like deleting parts of it or whatever, and then screenshot what's left. You have no evidence of the
Right.
validity. If you go
can
in and
change
do
a
an
contact and change it back.
yeah, you can go in and do an extraction. Then you can you can select for the text between these people at this particular time frame, and then get everything that there's a record of that in the phone.
Beyond that,
think
they
it's
have
so
apps
important.
where you can create like just fake text streams altogether. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like there's those apps that exist.
Either way, I don't think it's so important that it makes a difference if the picture is in versus she testifies to the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the bottom line is she's going to authenticate it anyway, either way.
Right.
Even if they make her go through a little bit more foundation. Yes, these were, I didn't change anything. This is accurate. I screenshotted it. I gave it to them. Then they're going to let it in and the rest would go to wait.
Does
So-
anyone know if that's true right there?
Didn't defense get denied something judge said couldn't be authenticated? I think that it was social media posts. She was not allowing.
Step out for just a few minutes.
Oh, well, they got to boot the jury. This is important stuff.
Three out. Yeah.
I'm assuming we're directly on time, babe. There's no finger movement.
No,
on the
we're
cursor.
we're current. We're current.
Allie was a wizard with it when you were gone.
Oh, I bet. Yet she couldn't figure out how to send the invite to Andrea.
Well, I thought I
Yeah,
sent it
Twitter,
to
she-
you. There, like there's a whole text thing that says Robert Mott on my phone.
I don't know
Doesn't
who
go to
that
you.
is. That doesn't go to me.
Neither.
Authenticate it.
Weird.
Get the authentication.
Please be seated.
Very formal. Robert Mata.
Well, it's like has some random things that we've texted. I think it's from your computer that's the difference.
I could excuse for 1 second just to pick up something. It's up right in the hallway.
Okay.
If you could just briefly explain to the witness what's occurring.
Yes, I just need Miss Giannetti back.
Sorry.
Okay. So thank you. And the next two, if they would be marked separately, please.
Oh boy, they got a comparison or something.
Oh,
Wow.
Thank you.
that would be awesome.
All right, the lawyers are going to get to ask you a few questions
I'm
now
gonna sit
before we go any
Oh,
further.
there's going to be a voir dire.
Okay, okay.
Oh boy, I'm going to see if
So,
you can authenticate it.
Mr. Lally, you can take the exhibits back and You can question this witness and then Ms. Giannetti can cross-examine.
Wait, is it Giannetti or Yannetti? I'm so confused.
May I approach with?
Yeah,
Nettie.
Lally.
Yannetti or Giannetti?
Yannetti.
Sounds like she keeps thinking Giannetti. I don't know.
So, Ms. McCabe, with reference to the two screenshots that we were just talking about before the jury left the room, those are screenshots that you took from your own phone, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the communications contained therein, is it your memory that those are communications that you had with Colin Albert?
Why don't you ask her what they are, non-leading?
Those
Yeah, Lally.
screenshots, as far as the communications, what are they? When were they done?
Just ask one
At a
question at a
later
time,
date.
Lally.
Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
I'm asking as far as the actual content of the conversations. When did those conversations?
January 28th.
And you were a participant in those conversations?
Yes.
And as far as the content of those conversations, is it your memory that the content
She just
reflected
said,
there is accurate
stop
as to
leading.
what the content of the conversations were between yourself and Colin Albert the evening of the 28th into the 20th?
Yes.
Wasn't leading.
And Colin Albert was somebody that you were familiar with, correct?
Yes.
And beyond what's contained within these screenshots, you had other text communications with Colin Albert using the same contact information.
Correct.
And how is it that you knew or were aware that the person or the contact that you were talking to was Colin Albert?
Because it's his phone.
With reference to that contact you had in your phone for Colin Albert, had you called that number before?
Yes.
When you called the number, who answered?
Colin.
And when you had texted Colin on prior occasions using that contact information, did you have any, you have a text communication, did you have any subsequent conversation in relation to the content of those text communications?
He's
Sorry,
trying
can
to
you
say
rephrase that?
that you know
No, I'm
it's
not just
him.
asking specifically about, what I'm saying is you have contact information in your phone for Colin Albert.
Yes.
And then you've
And
texted
on
him
any of those
something
prior
and then you
occasions when
talk
you
to him
had
about it
texted,
later.
that contact information you put in as Colin Albert into your phone. And just to be clear, you were the one who input that number as Colin Albert in your phone.
Yes.
And so on this or any prior occasions when you had contacted via text, that contact of Colin Albert in your phone, following those text communications, did you have any conversation with Colin Albert related to the content of those communications?
Have you texted with him?
Sorry, I'm confused.
And then had a
understand the question?
conversation
You
that
have to
related
make
back
these
to those
simpler.
texts
Let's try and get through this.
where he
before Janice.
knew, was aware of it. God, he's struggling big time.
At some point during the course of your, how long had you had Colin's contact information in?
For
Did
a
she
while,
change
years.
the contact information
And
from
over the
somebody
course of
else
those
and then
years,
screenshot it? Is that what this
had
is?
you had conversations related to content in text?
No, I think that they
Oh,
want to make
yes.
sure he was on the other
And
end.
as far as the content that
In
you had
other
texted to that
situations.
number you associated or input as Colin Albert, was Colin Albert aware of the content of those text communications?
Oh, correct. Yeah.
And within
you've
the
texted him,
specific
And then he
uh,
personally was
screenshot of
aware
text
of it.
communications from that evening, as far as your recollection of that particular evening, are the times that are associated with those accurate as far as your memory?
Yes.
And did you do anything to alter the times that are associated with those text communications prior to taking a screenshot and giving it to the state police?
No.
Now, turning to the other two screenshots that you took, those are photographs, correct?
Did I take them?
I'm just asking what they are.
Oh, both pictures of Colin. One's with my aunt. The other's just him and some other people blocked off.
And do you know when and where those were taken?
Yes, they were taken at the Albert's house. One of their sons were coming home from the Marines, so it was like a welcome home party.
And when was that in relation to the evening of January 28th to 29th?
A few weeks after.
And that sort of coming home celebration for your cousin who was coming home from the Marines, were you there for that?
Yes.
And so as far as your observation of those photographs, is what's depicted of Colin Albert, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Ron.
That was painful. It was
Made
very
me
painful.
wonder.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me take a real
You
quick
didn't
drink of
see
water.
him
How
text
long
back.
have you had an iPhone? I'm not talking about your current iPhone, but just iPhones in general.
For years.
More than 5 years?
Yes.
And how
And just real quickly, what's going on here? This is jury has been excused out of the room, and this is they're authenticating the text messages that they want to get into evidence, and they're allowing both lawyers to voir dire this particular witness. That's what's happening. Just in case you guys were wondering what was going on.
how old are you now?
I'm 20.
20. And when did you get your first iPhone, if you remember?
I don't remember.
12, 13?
Yeah, around middle schoolish.
Maybe 7 or 8 years. Is that a decent estimate?
Yes.
And in those 7 or 8 years, you have learned how to operate an iPhone, the various features that they have and the apps that you can download and use, correct?
Correct.
And your current iPhone has a number of apps on it, correct?
Correct.
With regard to the text message app, you'll agree with me that that is a green icon with a white sort of speech bubble in the middle of it.
Yes, I believe.
And you know that when you click on that, it gives you a list of the text messages that you're exchanging with people, the various threads, correct?
Correct.
You know that if you click on a thread, it opens up the individual text messages that you've sent and received to that particular person, correct?
Correct.
And you know that if you take your finger or your thumb and you hold it on one particular text that's either sent to you or from you, you can do things with that individual text, correct?
Correct.
You can
You mean-
forward it to somebody else, right?
Correct, I believe.
In the context of a conversation, you can just reply to that one particular text message, right?
Correct.
And if you do that, rather than hit the arrow button where you forward or reply, on the left
Don't be
side of the
hating the
screen,
green
there's a
message,
trash
Jay.
can, correct?
I'm not sure.
Android's got to go.
You know that you can delete a text from a thread, correct?
Correct.
All right. And it's a trash can that you
Oh.
click on, right?
Correct.
I'm not trying to trick you.
No, I was confused.
Why are you
Sorry.
trying
No,
to
I
trick her?
don't mean to confuse
Why are
you.
you trying to trick?
So you know that if you click on the trash can, it gives you an option to either cancel or to delete the message, correct?
Correct.
And what happens if you delete the message?
It's deleted off the phone.
Okay, so it's gone from that thread, correct?
Correct.
And somebody looking at a screenshot that you take after you've deleted that message, it wouldn't be evident that that message was ever there, correct?
Correct.
What are you getting at, Yannetti?
Now, you testified at a hearing in Boston on August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was, and we're not with a jury present, that was a federal grand jury, correct?
Correct.
And you had, by that point, by August of 2023, you no longer had the phone that you originally had on January 29th of 22, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
You had gotten a new phone in December of 2022, correct?
Okay, I'm not sure what time, but
Does that-
Everyone
yeah,
get new
I
phones
got
for
a new phone.
Christmas?
I believe I got a new phone.
But, and actually, the timing is not that important, just that it was before that grand jury appearance.
Okay, yes.
All right. And what did you do with the old phone when you got the new phone?
Transfer through iCloud, everything transfers over.
Okay, but I'm actually talking about the hardware itself, the
Oh, what did I do?
iPhone.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Not the data on the phone. I understand that you've testified that you transferred that to the new phone, but the actual physical phone itself, where did that go when you got the new phone?
I'm not sure.
Would that have been traded in?
Possibly.
You don't have it now, correct?
I don't think, no.
And as of August of 2023, you didn't have it either, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that no investigator from this case ever asked you for that phone that you had on January 29th?
Correct.
They
Right, so,
never-
Ms. Giannetti, can we just focus on the voir dire? All that you're doing, you can cross-examine her with, but on the voir dire of this.
Sure.
Thank you.
sure.
I'd just like to get the jurors back in.
No, I understand, Your Honor. I understand. I was trying to lay a foundation, but maybe it's not necessary. With regard to,
Just don't say, of course. You never.
If you need to do it, go ahead. I'm just trying to.
I want to accommodate the court, Your Honor. With regard to the messages that are in a given thread, right? We've talked about the fact that you are aware that you can reply to them, an individual message, forward or delete one, correct?
Correct.
You're also aware that it is possible to change the timestamp on any individual message, correct?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You go to settings and you go to general and you go to date and time. First of all, you can change the time zone of the message. Do you have your iPhone with you?
I'm not
right
aware
now?
of that.
I
Not
wasn't
on
either.
me.
Not on. And in addition to being able to change the time zone, you actually can change
Oh,
the hour and minute to whatever you want it to be. Were you aware of that?
No.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know
Maybe
that.
that from Deputy Heard.
I think he's saying that if you
Photos
change the internal time
on
of
your
your
phone.
clock.
You are aware that you can change the date and time of any photo in your photo app, correct?
Nope.
There is a little, when you go to your iPhone, there's a little I for information. And all you need to do is, I think it's for info or information. All you need to do is click on that and you get a pop-up from the bottom that gives you the choice to
Adjust date and
alter
time.
the date
It's
and
there.
time.
Adjust location.
Did you know that?
No.
I did not.
Next to that date and time is the word adjust. And that's all you have to click on. And you can change the time from 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 12:40 a.m. to 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 1:45 to 12:10 a.m. And it's that easy.
Yep.
Adjust
Now I
date
know. I
and
didn't know
time.
that. I didn't
Now
do
I
that.
know. Now I know.
I may have
Thanks.
Okay.
Huh.
I mean, who would have guessed we were all going to get an iPhone tutorial today? Now we all know that fancy trick. I feel like I can get out of so much trouble now with
It
my
seems
wife.
like he should have just been
Oh,
able
what do
to.
you mean? Look, I was home
Okay.
at 12:30.
So I'm going to allow this
It's
testimony.
about as useful as all the trials I've
Your
sat
argument
through
goes to
where
the
you
weight of
learn
the
how to make
evidence,
meth
not
about 20
its
different ways.
admissibility, but I did under Commonwealth versus Tracci want to give you your voir dire. Okay. All right. So let's bring the jurors back in.
So yeah, all that's going to go to waste.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I just don't think the defense should focus on that. I really don't.
I think it's a
They're
nothing
too
burger.
stuck on their theory to see that
Yes,
they've got
PYD.
another path
Your Honor,
right in
before the
front of
jurors come
them.
back in, may I just retrieve the
They
exhibits?
just want
Yes, but
Colin
I'd like
be
to
at
see
that
counsel
house.
at sidebar while they're coming in.
They
Sidebar.
really want Colin to be at that house. I mean, that's what's going on.
It's so not necessary. They're not locked into it too much at this point. They can adjust their
Mhm.
defense. There's other things here to work with.
Yeah,
That's
it
all right.
doesn't matter. Their point just needs to be it wasn't Karen. It could be anybody else. It doesn't matter who it was.
I
Right.
can't remember if in opening they really went all balls out and just said it was Colin. So maybe
No, they couldn't. They
they
couldn't
didn't
bring
at
up
all.
any of the third party culprits
okay.
at
So
all.
then they're not locked into anything. Just to, adjust.
Not
Adjust.
only are they not locked in, they couldn't even mention it. Like
Mhm.
all they really could bring up was the fact that they're considering this to be a frame up, that this is that the law enforcement framed her. That was all he really could get
Either
into.
way, if she didn't hit him, law enforcement still
Hunter, I think
framed
we
her.
should sit.
Even if any one of these theories,
Even if
unless
my
they're
slip and fall theory,
right.
like they still had to have framed him to
Did
some
they
degree.
get the entire McCabe iCloud? Is that where the defense could potentially have contradictory data?
No,
Or
I
just
think-
the individual phones.
No, I
I
think
think it
that's the
came
whole.
from the Fed investigation. They got a ton of phone data.
I think that's the entire point is that they don't have the phone data. That's why they were
Yeah.
trying to exclude this as not being able to be authenticated because it's so easily adjustable. If they had the underlying data, it would have been a non-issue.
Oh, sorry.
Hot mic.
Yep. Can't somebody just say, guys, we don't need this. Let's revisit our defense.
The voir dires honestly have not helped the defense so far anyway, because it just prepares the witness for what's coming.
Exactly. Because they're so long. You know, it's like.
But at least she'll seem less genuinely surprised when he asks those
Yeah.
questions. The
Yeah.
jury won't know what to make of it. Oh, man, she seemed like she really did know.
Yeah.
Of course, I can
She
technically
found
say
out
it.
3 minutes prior.
I apologize profusely. I just need one more minute. I'm so sorry.
Jeez, Yannetti.
Oh, Yannetti.
I think that, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but the decision here is they're going to allow them to question the messages.
Yes.
The folks
They're
are
letting
asking
the
in
messages
chat.
in.
They're letting them in,
in.
but they have to ask them, and then it's up to the jury to decide did they mess with it or not. Basically,
Yeah, the defense can cross on them, and it will go to weight, and the jury will decide.
So yeah, whenever Andrea's talking about it goes to weight, that's talking about how much stock that the jury can put into a particular piece of evidence or a witness statement. That's what when they talk about weight, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, the
Right.
fact that they admit it doesn't mean that like the court has found this is good evidence, this is valid, this is everything. It just means somebody on the witness stand has said that, and then the jury still gets to decide whether they believe that or not.
Exactly.
They get to weigh it in their minds.
which to me, I mean, I believe. To me, I don't know. I believed her when she was like, I didn't know that because I didn't know that. I had no
I didn't
idea.
know it, but I
I
don't
had
know
no
shit,
idea.
you know.
But
I
I'm
mean,
not
I
a,
don't
you
know.
know, she's young.
She's young. I would expect her to know all the tricks, to be honest with you.
Bob, you're just a caveman lawyer. Of course, you didn't know that.
I don't know. Well, I don't understand this modern world we live in. I don't get any of it. What is this? Are we on the computer right now?
I don't think you
Mr.
should
Lally,
come
I
at her
have an
too hard,
instruction to
be
give if you're
perfectly
going to put
honest.
in that screenshot.
Yes.
Okay. Jurors, remember, I've told you this before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must find first that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent the communication was in fact either Colin Albert or Ms. Allie McCabe. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that Ms. McCabe or Mr. Albert was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, then you cannot consider that communication in your deliberations. So with that, Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, the first 2 pages that's been marked AA, Commonwealth could seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay, those may be admitted.
I mean, the limiting instruction plants the seed that it could be bullshit.
I wish that limiting instruction would have said, and if you're not sure of the time, I don't know.
I mean, it plants the seed in the jury's
And Your Honor,
mind.
if I may just approach to return it to the witness.
That's possible. That's possible.
Right.
Thank you.
Or it makes them think that the
Yeah, Ms.
defense was
McCabe,
whining about something
With reference,
improbable.
before we get into that, you had an iPhone at the time of January 20th, is that correct?
Correct.
And with respect to your friend Colin Alberts, as far as his contact information within your phone, who entered that in?
I did.
And prior to that date of January 28th into the 29th of 2022, had you had phone conversations where you would sort of press the button to call that number and it rang, correct?
Correct.
And who, if anyone, answered the phone when you contacted that phone number in your phone?
Colin.
Now, with reference to Colin and the contact in your phone, had you had prior text communications with Colin using that contact that you put in?
Correct.
And outside of those text communications that you had, did you have sort of physical in-person conversations with Colin in regard to content that was within text messages you have with that content?
Yes, I assume so.
And specifically on that date of January 28th and the 29th, when you arrived at the home on Fairview Road, you texted Colin that you were there?
Yes.
And after you texted him that, what, if anything, happened after that?
He responded saying, okay. And then he came out to the car.
And Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission, just publish the text communication to the jury on the screen.
Okay, that
Yes.
closes that circle.
Circle
Well,
of life closed.
I text him, and he responded he was coming, and
I'm
then
sorry, Ms. Gilman, if
he
you
emerged
could,
from the structure.
Pull down.
There you go. Circle of life.
Now, what's up on the screen, Mr. Cave, is that what you have before you as the exhibit?
Yes.
And looking at, there's sort of one side has text and one side has a blue bubble, is that correct?
Yes.
No,
If you know
I'm not old.
who is communicating with who as far as the sort of plain text outside of the bubble?
Colin and I? Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
What I'm asking is, who's the blue bubble?
Oh, sorry. I'm the blue bubble and he is the gray whitish bubble.
Word.
And
KK,
from
that-
sort of
that's
top of
definitely-
what's depicted on the screen, you read the text that you received and the time that you received.
Yes. 11:54, and then I responded at 11:55.
I swear,
What
the
did Colin say at
defense
11?
arguing
Word.
that this was
You can get
altered
me
by
now
her
if
later
easier.
is just silly.
Okay, I am driving people home now.
Word.
And what did Colin respond to that, and what time did he respond?
He responded, "Word, get me after."
Word.
And if someone, if you could scroll down.
It's like they pimp
And,
my text messages. I use Word all the
Following the
time.
getting after, what if any responses you provided?
KK. Okay, and here,
And here that you texted, what time does that read on the screenshot?
12:10 a.m.
There's the mysterious
So what if anything
12:10.
Colin responds to the
Yes.
text?
He responded at the same time saying, "Okay."
Someone you can take that.
What's strange is the dad was still at the bar.
Yes.
Why is he saying he's laying in bed when he got home?
Do you need that? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So the
Jenny,
next,
is it okay
two
for
pages,
men to
two
use
separate
KK
pages,
or is that verboten?
That was
contain
her.
No,
photographs, is that
don't do it,
correct?
Bob.
Yes.
That wasn't the question,
And you
Peg.
recognize what's
Don't do it.
depicted in those photographs that I've just placed before you.
There are
Yes.
no gender
What do you
rules when it
recognize those?
comes to texting, is my
It's
official
Colin.
answer.
Is that what you're asking?
Well, let me ask you more specifically.
Okay.
So, were these also screenshots that you provided to troopers of the state police in August of 2020?
Yes, I believe so.
What's in regard to those two photographs, do you know when and where those photographs were taken?
They were taken February 11th at the Alberts, Nicole and Brian's house.
Objection. Move this right.
Ooh.
No, I'm going to let her testify when they're taken.
Ooh.
And so February 11th of what year, ma'am?
2022.
So a few weeks after January 28th, 29th, correct?
Yes.
And were you present at the Alberts house on the evening of February 11th when they were taken?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of yourself and or Colin or anybody being over the Alberts house on that?
One of Nicole and Brian's sons were coming home from their Marines, so there was like a welcome home party with family and friends.
I like how she looks
And
at
that is
30.
your cousin
Yeah.
Jack, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as what's contained in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal as far as your memory of what Colin looked like on February 11th?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach again?
Yes.
Almost introduce.
I just want to put her on the record that I would like to hear Allie McCabe do karaoke of
Yes,
Janis
yes,
Joplin. I think she would absolutely crush it. She's yet another Allie with a dark, like a deep, raspy voice.
I was thinking Dusty Springfield. Yeah.
Those
Either
are-
one. Those
that-
are
those are my two-
Allie's two go-tos. Son of a preacher
Son of a
man.
preacher man.
Yeah.
Funny.
Must be an Alley thing.
Dusty Springfield. I mean, she just pulled that right out. Crazy. I changed the words to Bobby Ray.
Yes.
Was the son of a lawyer man.
Yeah, it's true. She does.
Your Honor, may I just have a moment?
Yes.
Governor, if you could just enlarge that a bit. And do you recognize what's now up on the screen is what you have before you as Exhibit 82?
Yes.
And if you could just describe to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this photograph, who's the biggest?
Colin and my auntie Coco.
Auntie
And your
Coco.
auntie Coco is also Nicole Albert, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes, Nicole.
And if I could direct your attention to the next exhibit for you, exhibit 83. And this gentleman, if you could allow. And again, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as exhibit 83?
Yes,
This is the same evening, is that correct?
correct.
You know where in the house this photograph is taken?
I believe they call it their library. Maybe it's the room in the back.
Who scribbled
And as
these?
far as what's contained in this photograph in reference to your friend Colin Albert, as far as his face, his arms, his hands, is that fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, you can-
Very short arms for a boxer kid.
Yeah.
No, I may have to go
Bam,
one more time.
Yes.
Retreat.
This is little video. Pow, pow. Bang, 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 bang.
Thank you.
I think he's talking to Turtle Boy in that
Hmm.
particular tweet.
You know, I went through my phone to
bang.
look at some texts that occurred, right around midnight,
Thank you. I have no
and
further questions. John.
they did switch
Okay.
over
Gianetti?
Thank you.
to
The
the
date.
day when you got to midnight.
Yeah.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
gonna check some more
afternoon.
around Jazz Fest here.
Ms. McCabe, you have known Colin Albert your whole life, correct?
Correct.
Your mother is Jennifer McCabe.
Correct.
His mother is Julie Albert,
Correct.
and her maiden name was Julie Daniel.
Correct.
Your mother, Jennifer, grew up together with his mother, Julie, correct?
Correct.
You and Colin are extremely close, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you would consider Colin Albert to be one of your best friends in the world, correct?
Yes, he's one of my best friends.
Now, you claim that you took a screenshot of a text conversation that you had with Colin Albert on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Those were the screenshots that were just shown to this jury this afternoon, correct?
Correct.
And you claim that the information on that screenshot actually existed on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell your mother, Jennifer McCabe, that you had that text conversation with Colin Albert anytime after January 29th of 2022?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you give to your mother, Jennifer McCabe, a screenshot of that text message conversation?
Objection.
Sustained.
It's fair to say that on January 29th, 30th, 31st, you did not turn over that screenshot to any law enforcement official, correct, of 2022?
No, I was never asked.
No investigator from this case ever asked you for copies or a copy of that screenshot of that text message conversation on January 29th, 30th, or 31st, correct?
Correct.
They also did not ask you for a copy of that screenshot through the whole month of February, correct?
Correct.
In fact, all of 2022, no investigator ever approached you to say, can I have a copy of that screenshot, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that, you never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of the screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time,
Oh, it wouldn't have been relevant.
I believe, because Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later.
Objection.
So
Forming a
your
legal conclusion.
testimony today
Damn it.
is that at no time in the year 2022 did you consider it relevant at all that you had this screenshot of this text conversation, correct?
Correct.
Leaving that screenshot aside, but actually, before I leave that topic, you didn't turn over that screenshot of a text message until sometime during the summer of 2023, correct?
Correct.
About a year and a half or more after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes, when I was asked.
And by that time, the summer of 2023, you had already switched phones, correct?
Yes, believe.
In other words, the iPhone that you had on January 29th of 2022, you no longer have possession of that physical phone, correct?
Correct.
You had a new iPhone, correct?
Correct.
And you say that you transferred over the data from the old phone to the new phone, correct?
Correct.
When did you take that screenshot that was displayed to the jury today?
I don't remember.
Was it before or after you got rid of your old phone?
I don't remember.
So we don't know if that screenshot was from your phone that you got in December of 2022, or if it was from the phone
Do
that
we
you
have
had back in
metadata
January
for it?
2022, correct?
Correct.
That phone that you got in December of 2022, it's now May of 2024. Do you still have that same phone?
The phone, my old phone? Is that?
No, my question was, and again, I'm not trying to trick you in any way here. The phone that you got in December of 2022, the new phone at that time, is that the phone, your current phone?
Correct.
Now, before you got rid of the old phone and got the new one, did any law enforcement official, prior to that December of 2022 time period, or investigator from this case ever ask to examine your physical phone itself?
No.
Did they ever say to you, we would like to do what's called an extraction on your phone?
No.
And you never gave that phone at any point to any law enforcement official before you got rid of it, correct?
Correct.
And the first time that you mentioned that text conversation outside your family was August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was at a proceeding in Boston, correct?
Correct.
Where neither Mr. Lally and Ms. McLaughlin or we were there.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, move along, Mr. Yannetti.
Yes. That proceeding in August of 2023 was less than a year ago, correct? We're in May of 2024?
Correct.
And that was a long time after John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And that August of 2023, when you're revealing that text exchange, that was over a year and a half after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And leaving aside the screenshot, as of August 3rd of 2023, no investigator from this case, no state police trooper or anybody from the DA's office had ever interviewed you, right? Prior to August of 2023?
I talked to the state troopers, but I don't know if that was before or after.
That was on August 25th of 2023, which is about 3 weeks after your testimony in the other proceedings. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, then after.
And
Yeah.
at that point in time, on August 25th of 2023, you'll agree with me that you were not interviewed at a police station or a state police barracks, correct?
Correct.
Or the DA's office, correct?
Correct.
You were interviewed by Zoom, correct?
Correct.
And you were not alone at that time in your home, correct?
I'm not sure.
Your mother, Jennifer McCabe, was present, correct?
Okay.
And she was monitoring what was going on in that interview, correct?
Objection.
Was that true?
I don't recall.
Okay. in any case, that too.
You're going to
a
remember
year and a
who's
half
with
after
you when you're
January
getting interviewed
29th,
by the
correct?
police.
Correct.
All right. Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about, oh, by the way, you've had an iPhone since you were 12 or 13 years old.
Correct.
And you're now how old?
20.
So 7 or 8 years would be a good estimate as to how long you've worked with iPhones?
Correct.
And obviously you know how an iPhone works, correct?
Correct.
You know how to reply and comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
And you know that there's a lot of tools open to you to comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
You can reply to a text using an icon or an emoji, right? To like or dislike something that somebody else said.
Correct.
You can laugh at it, you can love it, you can like it, correct?
Objection.
Right?
Correct.
And they make it pretty easy, right? All you need to do is put your finger or your thumb on a specific message and hold it down and options appear, correct?
Correct.
And that's where you get the thumbs up, the thumbs down, the ha-ha, exclamation points, question mark, etc.
Correct.
And you also have other options, which is down the bottom, there's a kind of a curved arrow where if you click on that, you can forward the message or reply to a specific message, correct?
Correct.
And on the left, there's a trash can, right?
Correct.
And what happens when you click on the trash can?
It will delete the message from your phone.
And
All right, so pause it real quick.
it's your testimony that with regard.
It took some doing, but I finally found a text that's going from the 11:50 into the 1 into the midnight hour, and it did not change the date until there was like a little bit of a gap between. So I got like 11:59, 11:58, and then 12:02 a.m. at 12:06 a.m. And it wasn't until 12:49 a.m. that it actually changed the date on me.
Does it delineates AM though, right? It says AM.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
Oh wait. Yes.
Good intel, babe. Good job.
To the screenshot that we saw, there are no deleted messages in that conversation, correct?
Yes.
However, you would agree, as you've already testified, that if a message had been deleted from a screenshot, we'd never know, right?
True.
You're also familiar with the apps that are on iPhones, correct?
Correct.
You have a number of apps on your iPhone, right?
Correct.
You got
There
that
are
green one with the
12
text
or 15,
bubble.
I haven't counted them, 12 or 15 maybe on your home screen, right?
Correct.
And if you swipe to the left, you get another new population of 12 or 15.
Correct.
Not bad for an old guy.
Yeah.
You use apps like Instagram.
Correct.
Snapchat is a popular app.
Correct.
And probably to your detriment, but Life 360.
Correct.
All right. That's been an app in the McCabe family for a number of years, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it's in your family anyway, and probably in a lot of families, it's mainly used for the parents to keep track of their kids, right?
Correct.
And in order for Life 360 to work, you have to have your location services on, and somebody else has to have the app and is in the family, correct? Connected to you?
Correct.
And with regard to, just going back to the messages for a minute, do you know the difference between an iMessage and a text message?
Yes, I believe one's blue and one's green.
Okay. The screenshots that we saw of your text conversation that you say that you had with Colin Albert, you were in blue, right?
Correct.
That means that Colin Albert also had an iPhone at the time, correct?
Correct.
Right, because it wasn't
Now,
green.
with regard to the timestamp on those messages, the conversation about I'm here, I believe gave the time 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Are you aware how easy it is to change that time?
No.
Are you aware that
Ooh.
all you need to do is go from settings to general, and then there's a date and time that you can alter?
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
You know that when you set up your iPhone, you have to choose a time zone, correct?
Correct.
And you always choose the New York time zone because that's where Boston is, right?
Correct.
Are you aware that if you go into settings, general, and then date and time, you can change the time zone to wherever you're going?
I guess I didn't, but once I set my
Now,
I think it's interesting. She knew
What
to
was
just
that?
say no
Word,
as
I
opposed
had
to.
asked you if
did it just skip a little
prior
bit?
to
It happens sometimes. I
getting
don't
rid
think
of
it was
your
very
old
long
phone
time.
and getting
It's
the
good.
new one, if law enforcement ever asked you to, go through the phone themselves and you had said no, right?
Yes, they did not do that.
And then they never asked to do an extraction on the old phone, correct?
No.
What about the new phone that you now have that you got in December? Have the state police ever asked to do, have they ever asked to look through that phone?
They look, no, I don't think so.
You provided the screenshot that was shown to the jury today on August 25th when you talked to the state police in this case, right, of 2023?
Correct.
And when you provided them that screenshot, did they say, hey, by the way, can I look at your phone to see if it's on there?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Did they say
Right.
that to you?
I don't remember.
But in any case, you never physically showed them your phone, right?
No.
You don't recall clicking on that text message app, the green app with the kind of white speech bubble. You didn't click on that and then click on the Colin Albert conversation and say, here it is, did you?
No.
And in addition to not asking you to see your new phone, they also did not ask you to do an extraction of your new phone, correct?
I am sighing.
Correct.
And at some point in time, you realized that you'd have to be a witness in this case and have the unfortunate incident of having to talk to me, right?
Objection.
I'm going to see Counselor Tybart for just a minute on this.
I'm just gonna while they do this. I know I'm completely in the minority here, but I'll call him how I see him, and I've always called him like I see him. I completely believe her. I don't think there's shady shit. I don't know if I just believe her. People are like, I see people like, oh, she took a class on how to testify. So when we have people in here that are being shady, like they're liars, but we have someone who seems like they're doing all right. Oh, she took a class on YouTube on how to testify. In my opinion, she is credible. I'm calling it. I'm clearly in the minority here. A lot of people are mad
I'm
at
with
this.
you.
I
People are
I
so mad at
agree.
her. It's like,
all of these kids have come off way better than the adults have.
yeah, I
Yes.
completely.
I
Yeah.
think it's silly for the state, for the defense to keep trying to make it seem like she changed the dates and times.
I think she's.
I'm not
I think
charmed
she's
by her
being-
voice. Come on.
I am. I'm very
Are you
charmed.
charmed by
voice.
her
I've already
beauty?
put it on the record that I want her to perform Dusty Springfield for me.
Now I got both sides hating me. I'm sorry,
That's
guys.
kinda
I'm
Oh,
weird,
I got
Meg.
kids on Black Velvet.
I find her credible.
Okay, and just to wrap this up, to this day, no extraction has been done on your phone, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you had that Zoom interview on August 25th, you told the trooper that you drove Colin straight to his house after you picked him up on January 29th, and then you went straight home, correct?
Yes, I believe.
And you have previously testified back in August of 2023 that you believe you dropped Colin Albert off at his home at around 12:15, 12:20 or so?
Correct.
And when you left, and by the way, you're very familiar with 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
That's family, correct?
Correct.
Been over there many, many, many times, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with the neighborhood in terms of the streets that are around there, right?
Correct.
And you've lived in Canton your whole life?
Yes, until, yeah,
When you were a baby, you were in Stoughton?
yes,
Basically, you're a Canton girl, right?
yes.
And can you tell the jury the route that you took home from 34 Fairview, or actually strike that, the route that you took to Colin Albert's house when you left 34 Fairview on January 29th?
I don't remember specifically, but I would believe I drove up Fairview, then, sorry, I don't know the streets.
If I suggested to you that the street closest to 34 Fairview was Cedar Crest and the one on the other side is Chapman, does that refresh your memory?
Yeah, so Chapman.
Okay, so
I
you would have
believe.
gone up and gone to Chapman and taken a right or a left?
Really bad with directions.
She's so she's like, this girl is not lying.
When I got there, I went to the center of town, his house. I don't know specifically which way. I'm trying to think of it. I can't picture it.
Yes.
Yeah, let it go. She's
And people don't have good spatial memory like that. I buy that.
Are you familiar
Totally.
with Washington Street in Canton?
Yes,
Would you have wound up on Washington Street?
yes,
All right. And you're aware that the Canton Library is on the corner of Washington and Sherman Street? Does that make sense?
yes,
So you would have passed by the library?
yes.
Now, with regard to whether you went straight home, did you, by the way, when you went home, did you stay there
Yes, I believe so.
for in the rest of the night?
Yes.
Okay, and what time do you say that you arrived at home?
I'm not sure. Before around 12:30ish.
Okay. With regard to Life 360, would you agree with me that if you go on that app and you're trying to figure out where somebody in your family is, there's and let's say you want to know if somebody's home. There's like a circle that surrounds your home, correct?
Yes,
So once you enter that circle, you know that Life 360 gives an alert that said you arrived at home. Even though you're physically not walking in the door, you're within that circle, and that's the home circle, right?
yes,
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:04 and 53 seconds, you arrived within that home circle, correct?
correct.
And then at
What time?
12:06 and
12:04.
55 seconds on January 29th, you left that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds, you completed a 7-mile drive where your top speed was 42 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Well, they do have all of this.
And then you left home
What in the hell?
on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds as well. And what that probably means, reading between the lines, is that you entered that home circle, but then you didn't go home. You went through the home circle and completed a 7-mile drive somewhere, right?
I guess I thought I went home. I'm not.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
I believe I went home. I
Okay.
was completing my drive out my house.
All right, but at 12:26 a.m. on January 29th, you left home again, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you leave home?
I don't know. I don't remember.
All right. And at 12:26 a.m. and 12 seconds, you arrived at the Canton High School, correct?
No.
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:26 and 55 seconds, you completed a 1-mile drive where your top speed was 43 miles per hour, right?
I don't believe so.
And then at 12:26 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left Canton High School and arrived at home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 28 seconds, correct?
I do not know.
Sounds like a screw up or something.
And then after arriving home again on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 29 seconds, you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 12:31 and 22 seconds. Did you not?
No.
To where?
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 1:08 and 15 seconds, right?
I don't believe so.
Well, that makes no goddamn sense. How could she have left at 12:29?
And ultimately, you went through the home bubble
Isn't it showing her going back
and the
home?
Canton High School bubble, and you arrived at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 in the morning and 8 seconds.
Can I see what you're referring to?
Sure.
Like, what are you talking about, jerk off?
They got
That's
this
what's
from the
Yes.
Life 360.
Life 360
You
app
probably
from
don't
McCabe.
need these, right?
No, I'm good.
I mean, Cameron's always saying that Life 360 is fucking up. Like, she denies everything. Oh, it
Oh,
just said you were
please.
doing 104 miles an hour.
She
on
was
the
doing
freeway.
104.
To make
Those
it
add
easy,
up.
I'm gonna
It's
read
really
the whole
Not
thing,
accurate. It's to the
but,
speed. I'm like, what
where
the
it
fuck are you talking
says-
about? Yeah, it is.
The police interviews are wrong. The phone
Record 16
extraction
is what I
times
just
are
asked you about,
wrong.
but
The
feel free
Life
to read the whole
360 is
thing.
wrong.
Thank
Your
you.
point
If you
won't
would
matter
read
if it is
silently to
wrong.
yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Why isn't he telling us where she went on the 12-mile drive? I mean, he said she went to the high school.
Well, I
which
don't
is-
think they know. I'm not sure that the app tells them that.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Sorry. May I
I mean,
Well,
we're
that was the
looking
whole the app.
yeah, when we're looking at our daughters, it'll show us like what, like
Did
exactly
that
where she
help
was doing
refresh your
100
memory
on
miles an
where you
hour
were
on a
that night?
map. Yeah.
No.
Do you still dispute that you went straight home and didn't leave there?
Objection.
Sustained.
What?
Somebody else had her phone.
And finally, I just asked you about arriving at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 and 8 seconds. You arrived at home, within that home bubble, on January 29th of 2022 at 1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds, correct?
What time did it say I arrived at high school?
1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds.
And what time did it say I arrived at high school?
The high school was 1:28 and 8 seconds.
It wouldn't have taken me 2 minutes to go from the high school to my house.
Well, not
Well,
Confused.
Stop.
With regard to the high school was also one of the bubbles, one of the areas.
To
where
get
you could
between the
reach, right,
bubbles.
on Life 360?
No.
If I may, yes.
Yeah, her parents want to know when she was left high school. When she was in high school.
Yeah,
Get
hell
alert.
yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, that's the
Well, at
whole
least
point.
now
of
we know why he was going hard on those texts.
Did you say
Yeah.
that on Life 360, the Canton High School is not one of the areas that you're tracked in?
What do you mean?
So remember, do you remember we were talking earlier about?
Oh, like put in a location, like that was
Yeah,
home,
there
that
were
was
multiple
high school.
locations, like, if your mother's looking for you, where are you?
Yes,
Well, you're at D&E Pizza, you're at high school, you're at, home, right? I mean, those could be categories.
correct,
You've agreed that home was one of the categories.
correct.
And having reviewed that, the Canton High School is also one of the categories, correct?
I believe so.
And on January 29th of 2022, the last entry is that you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 1:32 in the morning and 23 seconds. And that's the end of the activity. Do you agree with me that that's when you finally stopped that night?
I don't recall.
I may have a moment.
Yes.
Don't recall isn't the right answer.
No, yeah, that's for sure. I don't know.
Something.
Is it true that you went to D&E and got a mediocre chicken parm?
Hell no, nobody gets anything at D&E.
All right, Mr. Lally.
What's DNA?
Case closed. That's Chris's pizza shop.
Oh,
Yeah, Chris Albert's spot.
Did she go pick up Chloe?
Now, Ms. McCabe, with regard to, did you get rid of your prior iPhone or did you?
Just
upgrade
ask her
it?
if Life
Upgrade.
360 ever screws
And
up.
that would have been in December of 2022, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
It's not
sometime
screwing up
around
a
Christmas.
12-minute,
Yeah,
12-mile
probably.
drive.
And that could have been a present as far as getting a new iPhone or upgrading your iPhone.
Yes.
Now, as far as any of the information that you were shown, as far as the screenshot, did you in any way, shape, or form alter or delete any of the content within that text message from January 28th and the 29th of with calling out?
No.
And with reference to changing times or time zones or anything on text messages, before Mr. Yannetti asked you any of those questions, were you aware of any of those things as things that you could do with your phone?
No.
With regard to Life 360, what any knowledge do you have as far as the accuracy of sort of the timestamps that are contained within that app?
Well, I'm not sure, but on the photo he showed me, it says like turn Wi-Fi on. So that like remind Allie to turn Wi-Fi on. So that could have affected the accuracy.
And that was on literally every single one of the alerts that was on that page that he showed you.
Every single one.
Now, Canton High School, do you know what street that's on?
She's
Washington
super
Street.
attentive.
I believe.
And
Yeah.
about how far a ride is it from Canton High School to your house?
7-8 minutes. 10, I'm not sure.
You were in the bubble, Canton High School at 1:28 in the morning. Could you have possibly been in the bubble of your home at 1:30 in the morning?
No.
And unless you were going 90 miles an hour in a snowstorm?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions about that time frame of August of 2023 when you were asked and you turned over sort of screenshots to troopers from the state police, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about previous times indicating that you weren't asked and it wasn't relevant, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you know why you were asked in August of 2023 versus any prior time period?
Because Colin Albert wasn't in the house. And then it was brought up here that he was.
And brought up where?
By the defense.
And around that time of August 2023?
I believe so, yes.
And with reference to relevancy, is that what you were talking about?
Correct.
And what, if anything else, are you close friends with Colin Albert, is that correct?
Correct.
What, if anything else, has either your family or Colin Albert and his family undergone over the course of pendency of this case?
Objection.
No, the door's been opened. I'm allowing it.
Well, basically harassment.
Harassment by who?
How was the door
Bloggers,
open?
people online.
And what, if anything, in relation to Colin Albert being in the house has occurred as far as the harassment that you're talking?
Can you rephrase?
With reference to what you were talking about as far as the relevancy of Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
Objection.
No, go ahead. She can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed he was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home.
Oh,
So the people are harassing him saying he was at the house when it's not true.
but John
When you
was
speak about harassment, what specifically type of harassment are we
Constant phone calls, emails, awful messages.
Objection.
This
I'll
might
allow
help
it.
the defense.
Focus on this witness, not Colin Albert at this point.
As far as you and your family, what, if any, type of harassment have you received?
People showing up at our house, people emailing my school.
Aw.
Just like a lot of harassment.
Please say this is fake. Please, people, tell me this is fake right now. Please. Tell me this shit is fake. LOL, come on. You guys gotta be kidding me.
Not helping the defense anymore.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have some. Thank you.
And how long a period of time has that persisted?
Very long time.
Thank you. I have no further.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. McCabe, you're all set.
Thank you.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. Call multiple call Colin Albert to the stand.
Oh, shit. I mean, Andrea, we're not getting your witnesses, but these are pretty good second place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Colin Albert should be interesting. Boy, the judge is just dying to get the Turtle Boy shit in. She wants it coming up. She wants it out there. Nah, you open the door. Go fuck yourself. It's coming in. You hit a cop. You're going in. Goodwill Hunting. In case you guys don't know.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and during the case now hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Colin Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
My whole life.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
I live with my mother, my father, and my two brothers,
And your mother and your father, what are their names?
Julie and Chris Albert.
And your brothers, what are their names?
Chris and Dylan Albert.
And as far as within the age of you and your two brothers, where do you fall in that?
I am the middle child.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 20 years old.
And do you work? Do you go to school?
I go to school at Bridgewater State.
And what year are you in?
I am going into my junior year.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th and to January 29th of 2020. Recall those days?
Yes.
Do you recall what days of the week they were?
I do not.
Do you recall whether it was a weekday, weekend?
Weekend.
And turning your attention to the evening of January 28th, do you recall where you went that night?
Yes, I do.
And just to be clear, around that time, were you in college? Were you in high school? What grade were you in?
I was a senior in high school.
So end of January, you would have been about 4 months away or so from graduation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, where did you, at some point, did you leave your home and go out?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went out?
I do not remember.
Do you recall whether it was light or dark when you went out?
It was dark.
And where did you, upon leaving your house, where did you go?
I went to one of my buddy's houses.
And that buddy, what was his?
Mike.
And where does Mike live in relation to you?
Can you rephrase that?
Does Mike live in Canton as well?
Yes, he does.
About how far is it from your house to Mike's house?
About like 7-8 minutes.
And when you got to Mike's house, was it just you and Mike, or who, if anyone else was there?
I do not remember who was there.
Was there more than just the two of you?
Yes.
And generally speaking, when you got to Mike's house, what is it that you did when you got?
I do not remember.
Now, as far as how you got from your house to Mike's house, do you recall how you got there?
No, I do not remember.
Let me ask you this. Did you walk? Did you drive? Did you get a ride?
I got a ride.
Do you recall who you got a ride from?
No.
And when you, do you recall, let me ask you this, as far as that particular night that you went out, did you drink any alcoholic beverages while you were out?
Yes.
And did you drink any of those at Mike's house?
Yes.
And do you recall generally what you were drinking that night?
Bud Light.
And when you were at Mike's house on that particular evening, do you recall about how long you were there for?
A few hours.
And do you recall how much you had to drink while you were at Mike's house?
I do not remember.
And so in reference to you going out and going over Mike's house and having some beers over there, is that why you didn't drive?
Yes.
So you got a ride from someone over to Mike's house, you spent some hours there, and then do you recall where you went from there?
I went to my uncle's house.
And fair to say you have a relatively large extended family within Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you say you went to your uncle's house.
I missed
whose
it
uncle's
too. I'd
house?
like to know how.
My
he
Uncle
opened the
Brian.
door.
And that would be same last name as yourself, so Brian Albert.
Yes.
And how is he your uncle? Sort of how is he related?
He is my father's brother.
And why did you go to your uncle's house that night?
It was my cousin Brian's birthday, so I went over to celebrate for a little bit with him.
And so that would be Brian Albert Jr., is that right?
Sir.
And you know how old your cousin Brian Albert Jr. was turning on that night?
I do not know.
When do you recall how you got from Mike's house to your uncle's house?
I believe Allie McCabe.
And do you know the address as far as your uncle's house?
34 Fairview Road.
Is that somewhere, your family's house, is that somewhere that you had been before?
Yes.
And so your memory is that Allie McCabe gave you a ride from Mike's house to the house on Fairview?
From what I remember, yes.
Now, Allie McCabe, as far as who is that to you? Or what, if any, kind of relationship you have with Allie?
It is my cousin's cousin. So not technically my cousin, but we're close and like we do family events and stuff like that together.
And you and Miss McCabe, are you in the same grade?
Yes.
And how long have you known each other?
My whole entire life.
So not blood related, but someone that you see at family events.
Yes.
And someone that was in the same grade and went to the same school as you?
Correct.
And that school, which school did you go to at that time?
Canton High School.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived at the house on Fairview?
Between 10:30 and 11 at night.
And did you have at that time any kind of curfew or time that you had to be home from your parents?
Usually around like right around before midnight.
And so was it like a hard fast, like 12 o'clock? If you're not here, you're grounded, or was it sort of around that time?
Just around midnight.
And so after, when you arrive there, you go into the house, is that right?
Yes.
And the house at 34 Fairview has a couple of different ways to get in the house in the front, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you recall which way that you went in that evening?
I think
The
he
side
just
door
said
near the garage.
At the time,
And when
John
you
was
come
on the
into the
premises.
house,
I
where
don't
did you
take
go
it to
within?
mean this.
What room did you go into?
The living room.
And then from the living room, where else did you go?
Or the
within?
property line.
Like the kitchen area.
And within the kitchen area of the house, who, if anyone else, was present in the kitchen?
From what I remember, my cousin Brian, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson, and Catherine Duty, from what I remember that night.
Is it possible there were other people there that you just don't recall?
Yes.
And where were they situated, sort of in the kitchen dining room area?
Like sitting around the kitchen table, I would say.
Now, after you arrived there, well, when you arrived there, what is it that they were doing when you walked in?
Just listening to music and having a couple of drinks.
And you come in, you greet people, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the other people that you talked about, as far as beyond your cousin Brian Albert Jr., did you know those other people?
I knew of them. I wasn't friends with them or anything.
Fair to say they were older than you were, is that correct?
Correct.
So like Miss Levinson would have been older than you by at least a few years at that point.
Yes.
And the same with reference to, I believe you said Miss Fabiano and Miss Duty, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when you arrive at the house, did you have any other drinks once you got there?
Yes.
And do you recall what, if anything, you drank once you got
Bud Light.
there? So same as you were having before?
Correct.
You know how many that you had while you were at 34 Fairview?
I do not remember.
And over the course of the evening, whether it was at Mike's house or in between, or when you got to 34 Fairview, Did you feel yourself as far as like overly intoxicated or drunk or anything like that?
No.
And as far as the other people that you observed at the house that night, does anybody stick out to you as being overly intoxicated or fall down drunk or anything like that?
No.
Now, with reference to when you came into the house, you mentioned there was music playing. How would you describe sort of the general mood within the house?
Was happy. It was, yeah.
Now, as far as that area where you first observed the people around the table in the kitchen dining room area when you came in, did you ever see anybody else go anywhere else in the house?
Not that I remember.
Did you yourself go anywhere else in the house?
No.
At any point in time in the evening while you were there, did you go upstairs or downstairs in the basement or out in the backyard or anywhere else besides the kitchen dining room area?
No.
Gone maybe the restroom at some point?
Yeah. Other than that, no.
And about how long were you at your uncle's house that night to celebrate your cousin's birthday?
Probably around like an hour and a half.
And so about what time would it have been that you left?
12:10.
And with respect to your leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you contact to facilitate?
Rephrase.
Let me ask it in a much easier, better way. Okay. As far as your plans were concerned, as far as leaving the house, who, if
Babe,
anyone,
pause
did you
it.
reach out to get a ride from?
My friend Allie McCabe.
I just want to be clear that I don't think anyone on this panel, and you guys let me know if I'm misspeaking as to any of you, believe that just because we may have found Allie's emotions to be true or her testimony to be true, that in any way, shape, or form translates into evidence of guilt as it relates to Karen Reed.
It has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Like, this is merely another piece of the prosecution trying to disable and tear apart the defense. There's nothing to do with them proving their case. That's the entire point. I mean, it was like the first thing that Andrea said this morning. Like, we just haven't seen any evidence at all of Karen Reed committing a crime. And we are now 12 days into the trial. So like every witness they put on, the purpose of the witness is to really disarm the defense for their case in chief in terms of saying, look, this was a conspiracy. This, these are the third party culprits. Like we're just not seeing the evidence we need to see. At some point during this trial, the state or the Commonwealth has to put on evidence that shows that Karen Reed committed these crimes. I mean, that's it. And we're just not seeing it.
Well, look, I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this as any sort of, I'm not saying this applies to Allie McCabe specifically. I am just saying in general, emotions can be very true. A person can absolutely feel very sad, very distraught. They can feel like they've been harassed when they are not in the right. I represent people all the time who feel absolutely terrible about the consequences that they are suffering as a result of what they did, but it's not that they feel bad about what they did. So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to say she's faking anything. I'm not trying to say like it's wrong or even that it is unjustified. I'm just saying it doesn't really tell you anything other than she's got strong feelings about this. And the fact that she's got strong feelings about it really doesn't tell you anything about the truth or falsity of anything that she's talking about. Just tells you this is a complex issue for her.
100%.
And I just want to say, I feel like people missed the 50 other witnesses before that I thought were garbage, and I pointed out that I thought they were. I'm just calling how I thought she was being credible. If you're telling me that data, if someone comes in and tells me that live GPS is absolutely accurate and like it completely disputes what she said, I'll tell you right there. I'll call it. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. She fooled me. She was lying, and I just didn't catch it. That data was accurate, and that's fine. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I just thought she was being honest. I thought the crying was honest, whether it was regarding her being harassed or something else. I don't know. That's fine. It's people don't have to, I don't expect everyone to agree with me. That's just, and again, Ali is absolutely correct. Has nothing to do with Karen Reed. It's just a 1 week. I'm calling witnesses each. That's what we said going into this, right, Bob? We're going into this trial. Each witness evaluating their credibility, all the evidence, evaluating as it comes in, because we've all seen a ton of stuff online before this trial has started, and people have made decisions regarding that. And I'm just basing each witness based on what I see and the evidence on what I see, and that was just my opinion. I don't expect
100%. And I can tell you one thing definitively: Allie McCabe did not move the needle towards proving Karen Reed's guilt one iota. No matter what you take from that testimony, no matter whether it was genuine or not genuine, whether it was emotions, as Andrea was saying, that were caused by who knows what. It could have been the stress of being on the stand, and then she did feel like she was harassed or her family was harassed, which is a real thing for her. That has still nothing to do with the underlying case. That's facts. Like that.
All right, and I've got to go pick up Scout. If you guys are still going when I get back, I will hop back on.
You do? Why? Do they?
Yeah,
call
I'll
her?
explain later. No,
Okay.
she just wants me to pick her up.
Okay. And does anybody realize that this guy is Mark Ratner from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right there?
Oh my God.
Good call, Bob. I feel like some of our audience maybe who actually knows how to change their iPhone time probably might not know that reference, but yes, good call, Bob.
Yeah, right.
And how did you reach out to her?
I texted her.
And do you recall whether or not you had any sort of other communication? Well, let me step back and ask it this way. At that point in time, in January of 2022, you had Ms. McCabe's information saved as a contact in your phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
And on prior occasions, had you had a chance to, call that number from your cell phone that you had programmed in as Allie McCabe?
Correct.
And when you called that number, who, if anyone, answered the phone?
Allie.
Now, with respect to text communications, had you had text communications with that contact in your phone as Allie McCabe prior to that date of January 28th?
Yes.
And when you had those conversations, did you then also have subsequent sort of in-person conversations with Allie McCabe as well?
Yes.
And during those in-person conversations, was there any reference or anything talked about content that had been previously sent and communicated via text?
No.
Let me ask it in a better way. So you would have text communications with the person you put in as a contact as Allie McCabe, correct?
Yes.
And then subsequent to having those text communications, you would then speak to her either in person or over the phone, correct?
Objection. The objection is sustained. Watch the form of your questions.
Following those text communications with the person that you had input in your phone, what, if any, verbal conversations would you have in reference to the content of the text?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Did you talk to her in person about something you had talked to her about in text?
No.
Now, with reference on that specific date of January 28th, was text communications the only means by which you communicated with Allie McCabe?
From what I remember, yeah.
And were there other means by which you would typically communicate with her?
If she wasn't answering a text, I'd give her a call. Yeah.
And were there apps or anything like that on your phone that you would communicate with her as well?
Snapchat sometimes.
Snapchat.
Now, with respect to Snapchat and your family, specifically your cousins, what, if any, sort of group Snapchat chains were there with respect to your family?
Yes.
And specifically, who were those sort of group Snapchat chains? Who was included within them?
I have a Snapchat group chat with my cousins.
And you have cousins on basically your father's side and your mother's side, correct?
Not on my mother's side, no.
You have no cousins on your mother's side?
No.
And with respect to the cousins on your father's side, would it be all of your cousins that were included within that?
Not all of them, no.
And so who of your cousins would be included on those kind of group Snapchat chain?
My older brother, Chris, my younger brother, Dylan, my cousin, Kevin, Brian, Brendan, Caitlin, Kayla, and I believe that is it.
And if you recall, was there any communication on that group Snapchat chain in regard to Brian Jr.'s birthday on that date of January 28th to 29th?
No, not that I remember.
Now, with respect, so you reach out to Ms. McCabe via text, is that correct?
Yes,
And she agrees to pick you up?
yes,
And at some point, are you made aware that she's at the home?
yes.
And how is it that she makes you aware that she's at the home?
I got a text message from her that says I'm here.
And at any point in time while you were in the home, did Ms. McCabe come inside the home?
No,
And so after you received that text message from Ms. McCabe, did you respond?
yes,
And do you recall what you responded?
come in.
And from that communication, after you sent that, about how long was it between the time that you sent that and the time that you came out?
Between 30 seconds and a minute, I'd say.
And when you came out of the house, do you recall which door you came out at that point?
The side door next to the garage.
And when you came out that door, who, if anyone, did you encounter as you were coming out?
As I was walking out, I saw my Uncle Brian and my Aunt Nicole.
And you were going out, and what were they doing?
They were coming in.
And in addition to your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, was there anybody else that you recall that was with them when they came into the house?
No, not that I remember.
And what, if any, exchange did you have with your uncle and your aunt as you were going out and they were coming?
I just said, I'm going home. My mom wants me home. I love you guys. Bye.
And you then went outside of the house, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you see Ms. McCabe outside?
Yes,
And where was she where was her vehicle in relation to the house?
in the driveway.
Now, do you recall what type of vehicle Ms. McCabe was driving on that particular night or had at that time?
I believe it was the blue Ford that they had.
Weird how
Was
none of
that
them
a
saw it in the
sedan? Was
driveway
that
and
an SUV?
recognized
What
it
type
when
of
they're all arriving at the
A
same
sedan.
time and Brian Higgins is pulling in with
And
the
so
plow and
You
everything.
come out, that's in the
Yeah.
driveway, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether or not it was parked on the left side or the right side of the driveway?
I do not remember.
And you get into the vehicle. Which part of the vehicle did you get into?
That I do not remember.
Front seat passenger side, does that sound right?
Could have been that, yeah.
Do you recall whether or not there was anybody else in the vehicle at the time that you got in? Do
I do not remember that.
you recall whether or not there was anybody else in the vehicle at the time that she had dropped you off at that location?
I do not remember that either.
Now, as far as the coming outside of the house, did you take note of anything as far as the weather or what was going on with that when you came outside?
Pretty sure it just started snowing at that time, around that time.
So the snow had just begun. Do you recall whether or not it was sticking or accumulating on the ground at that time?
I do not remember, no.
Now, you get into the car and where did you go?
She drove me right home.
So no stops along the way, just straight from Fairview to your house.
Correct.
And about how long a period or how long a drive is?
Anywhere between 5-10 minutes.
Now, as you were outside of the house, walking to the car, and after the car sort of backs out of the driveway and leaves, did you observe anything abnormal or unusual outside of your uncle's house that night?
No,
Did you observe any other cars outside at that time?
not that I remember.
Now, Allie has a mother and a father, and you're familiar with them, is that correct?
Correct.
And what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt.
Same last name as McCabe.
Yes.
And you're familiar with what types of vehicles they have?
Yes.
And when you came out of the house and got into Allie's Ford sedan, did you see any vehicle you would associate with either Jennifer or Matthew McCabe at the house at that time?
No.
And so you drive home and you go to your house without the address. Whereabouts within the town of Canton were you living at that point?
It's right in the center of Canton near the Seasons gas station.
And is that a single-family house or a multi-family house? Or what is
It is a condominium.
it? And when Mr. K pulls in and parks, you get out, correct?
Yes.
And so in order to get into the building, in order to get into your home, how is it that you get into your home when you get to the condo?
There's a door around back that I go into, and I gotta either have a key or they buzz me in, but I usually have a key, and I gotta go up three flights of stairs, and then we're at the top level in the condominium.
And so you have to get sort of into the building before you can get into your own unit.
Correct.
And did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still there as you were, excuse me. Did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still out there parked when you opened the door with the key?
That I do not remember.
And you get into the condo, or you get into your home, and who, if anyone, was living with you at that time?
My parents and my little brother.
Your older brother, where was he?
In San Diego.
He was in the service, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as your brother, your little brother, and your father and your mother, were they home when you got home?
Yes.
And how do you know?
Because I remember my parents being up in their bedroom that night.
Is there any sort of rule or sort of, for lack of a better term, a protocol as far as when you come home, where do you go sort of first thing when you walk in?
I always tell my mom and my dad that I'm home, and usually go up to their bedroom, give them a hug goodnight, tell them I love them, and then go down to bed.
And did you do that on that occasion?
Yes.
So sort of immediately when you come home, you go right up to your parents' room?
Yes.
And when you got up to your parents' room on that particular evening, was both your mother and your father in their room?
Correct.
And you had that sort of exchange that you described before?
Yes.
And so your bedroom is then located downstairs from where your parents' bedroom is?
Yes.
And if you know about what time was it that you came into the house?
I want to say around 12:20.
And fair to say this is 2.5 years ago and you weren't exactly looking at your watch when you came in, is that right?
Exactly, yes.
And as far as being home or having that curfew around midnight or so, did you get in trouble for being late that night?
No.
Objection.
I'll sustain the objection. I'll strike that.
Now, Mr. Albert, the place that you were living at that point in the condo, how long had you been living?
That I do not remember.
Did you live somewhere else in Canton prior to?
Yes.
Where was it that you lived?
7 Meadows Ave.
And how long did you live at 7 Meadows?
My whole entire life before moving to that condo.
And so all I'm sort of trying to ascertain here is, so from the time of January 28, 29, 2022, was it a long time, short time, months, weeks, years? How long had you been living at the condo?
Short time, I'd say a couple months.
And so prior to that couple of months, you had lived your whole life at 7 Meadows, correct?
Correct.
And that was a single family house, is that correct?
Yes.
And with respect to living on Meadows Ave, did you know people that lived on your street growing up?
Yes.
And at some point while you were living there, did you come to know someone by the name of John O'Keefe?
Yes.
And how did you know Mr. O'Keefe?
He lived at the top of our street.
So how many houses, if you know, were sort of in between your house and Mr. O'Keefe's?
2.
And do you know how long that Mr. O'Keefe had been living on that street?
I do not know.
And how did you know him, sort of, if you could describe sort of your relationship with your neighbor, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew him because I knew that my parents were friendly with him. And I knew he lived at the top of our street. That's how I knew him.
And were you aware who, if anyone, lived at the house with Mr. O'Keefe?
I know his 2 kids that he brought in, adopted, lived there, and I'm not sure who else.
And that would have been his niece and his nephew that he adopted, correct?
Correct.
Where were they in relation to you as far as age?
A lot younger. I don't know the exact age difference, but.
So if you were in high school, they would have been some grade far below.
Yes.
Now, as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, your neighbor, About how often would it be that you would see him?
Not often. I drive by every now and then. He'd be outside and I would wave. He'd wave back. That was pretty much it.
And during the time that you lived on Meadows Ave or a couple months subsequent to that, is there ever any animosity or any sort of arguments or anything that you would ever had with Mr. O'Keefe?
Never.
And how would you describe Mr. O'Keefe from your perspective as far as how would you describe him as a person?
A nice guy, a good guy.
Now, with respect to, if I could bring you back to Fairview Road on January 28th and 29th of 2022. Obviously, you were familiar with Mr. O'Keefe at that point.
Yes.
And at any point in time that you were in that home, did you see Mr. O'Keefe inside the home?
No.
At any point in time that you were outside of the home, going in, coming out, at any point in time did you see Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
At any point in time on the evening of January 28th into January 29th, 2022, did you see Mr. O'Keefe anywhere?
No.
And at that time, at end of January 2022, were you aware of or did you know anybody by the name of Karen?
Yes.
And how did you know?
I knew that she dated Mr. O'Keefe.
And had you had any sort of prior interactions with Ms. Reed prior to January 28th?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you know what she looked like?
Not really.
As far as any interactions, would that be just sort of driving by the house?
Yeah. Maybe drive by, wave. That was about it.
I almost thought you were telling me to pause it. I'm like, Bob, I don't have.
No, that was my drive-by wave.
I may have one moment.
Yes.
What's up for you, Galaxy?
He's going to bring up pictures of the
As
house so
far
we can
as
kill
that,
10 minutes.
Sort of reaching out to Ms. McCabe on that particular evening, was that something that you had done before?
Yeah.
Is that something that sort of you and your friend group did together as far as if somebody was out and driving around and somebody else was maybe drinking somewhere, they could contact them for a ride?
She's our DP.
Yes, correct.
That was as opposed to somebody drinking and then getting behind the wheel and driving, correct?
Exactly.
Now, sir.
I'm starting to think they don't have Uber in Canton.
It's so simple and easy.
I
At
mean,
some point in
crazy.
July of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with any troopers from the state police in regard to that evening of January 28th, 29th?
Say the date again.
Some point in July of 2023, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
No.
At some point subsequent to that date of January 28th, 29th, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
Yes.
And you were asked questions and you answered them, is that correct?
Correct.
And following that conversation or interview that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide them with reference to your phone?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry.
At some point, did you provide them with a screenshot of a text communication between yourself and Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
And was that something that you took a screenshot on your own phone and then were able to then provide it to them?
Correct.
Now, may I approach?
Yes.
I like this closing the loop, but I'd be so much happier if we had the metadata for these screenshots. Just tell me when they were screenshot.
right.
So showing you a document, just ask you to look up, look at it and then look up when you finish. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize as?
My text messages between Allie that night.
And what's contained on that, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you recall as far as the text messages, what was on your phone, as far as what you took a screenshot of the text messages between you and Allie McCabe that night?
Yes, sir.
I approach again, Your Honor? Yes. I'm Walter Sesh, introduced in a minute.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, one moment.
Sure.
I'm telling you, Canton's like, it's that movie Copland. Watch it tonight, Jay. Classic. It's got Stallone like post Rocky 3, plays like kind of like a frumpy sheriff, you know, and it's like all these cops live in this town and they run shit. You know, that's what Canton reminds me of. They all drive around drunk. Kids are all underage drinking, driving around.
And jurors, remember the instruction I gave you about the text messages. Thank you.
Except there was a little bit of murder.
Okay.
Exhibit 84.
They did, yeah. They would. That was Jersey. Copland was Jersey.
No, may I approach just to return to
Yes.
the witness? With the court's permission, may I publish this for the jury?
Okay.
God damn it, Jennifer! Your husband sounds like a brilliant man.
Sir, what's up on the screen? Is that what you have before you as Exhibit 84?
Yes.
And
Sir, what does word mean?
contact that's listed
Word.
at the top states
Word.
now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that how you had Ms. McCabe programmed into your phone?
Correct.
And from this, there's two sets of communications, one contained in blue bubbles and one contained in non-blue bubbles, correct?
Yes.
If you know the blue bubbles, is that you or is that Ms. McCabe or who's?
That's me.
So the other side would be Ms. McCabe, is that correct?
Correct.
There's also times that are stamped or associated with these text bubbles and with the text communications, Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
If I could direct your attention, and maybe easier if you're looking at the paper in front of you, but just sort of starting from the top, January 28, 2022, if you could read to the jury what the content is, what the time is, and indicate who is communicating.
At 11:54, I texted Allie and said, "You can get me now, period." At 11:54, I texted her again and said, "If easier." At 11:55, Allie texted me back and said, "Okay, I am driving people home now." At 11:55, I said, "Word." And then at 11:55, I said, "Get me
Word.
after."
The
At
use of punctuation in the
11:55, Allie
period
wrote
is a little
back
sus. I
KK.
don't.
And then
Word,
at
girl.
12:10 a.m., Allie wrote here. And at 12:10 a.m., I wrote back, "Okay."
It's coming to take that.
I mean,
Your Honor, may I
word
approach this to
word
retrieve
could have
the
been
Yes.
used in lieu of okay there, just in case you don't know how to use word.
Now, sir, with respect to that last communication that you sent as far as okay,
What do you think
how
of this,
long after
Andrea?
that
Thing I put up on the
message was
screen.
sent did
I
you
think
then
it
go out
was
to the car?
because they
Where-
implied that
Right
she only
after I
brought up the call-in text like late in the day and she wasn't being allowed to explain. It was because the defense had raised call-in as this issue. That's the only reason why it came up later, and that's why she provided it later. And that was associated with, all of the harassment, and now they think it's important to disprove call-in being there because everybody's being harassed. That's the chain of logic, I guess, that I see for that.
Right. And I don't think it's getting to the FBI investigation, even though they're certainly intertwined. Once that became public knowledge that the feds were looking into it, the harassment certainly amped up, because it was like everybody on that side of it was like, see, word. All right, let's go.
Say around 30 seconds.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
Andrea, to your point, don't you? There has
Sir,
to be a
I'm showing you
Cellbrite
what's been
expert at
marked
some
as
point in this
Exhibit
trial,
80.
right? Like,
Yeah.
why not? Are the people going? Is it going to have the effect afterwards when they call this? Like all the stuff that's happening now that we're like, that person's going to tell us exactly when stuff. Is it going to have the same effect when like a week or two from now they call us that person? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think one of the challenges here is that, okay, you're introducing this screenshot. We don't have metadata for it. We don't know much about it. We've got this, at least suggestion by the defense that these things can be altered. So by the time we get to the Cellbrite stuff, this is going to look pretty chintzy in comparison.
Right.
You
right.
know, it's just going to set that contrast between what they presented and what they could have done.
Right. Yeah, it's like you were saying, like, I mean, the metadata rules the day. It's like this isn't like 98 I mean, we have all this data. It's all still accessible. Even if we're just pulling the carrier's records in terms of when text messages came and went. I mean, you're not going to get what the text messages said, but you're certainly going to see the numbers from which they were generated and who was sending and who was receiving. So
Plus, people are probably going to be thinking about house long when that expert comes in. That's probably what's going to be in their mind, that message, as opposed maybe to these. But I guess we will see.
For sure.
Again, it's just such a little thing because the metadata would make a huge difference for me. If if it shows that they screenshotted this in October or August of 2023 or thereabouts when these interviews are happening, it just corroborates their version of events so much more. It's not a situation where if it had been screenshot, January 29th, January 30th or something like that, when people would be wondering, well, why would you consider it significant at that point in time? You just said you don't think it was relevant. So it just would be very helpful. And that's extremely easy information to get. You just look at the image creation date. That's all we need to know.
Super simple. Super simple.
82 and 83. Again, I just asked you to take a look at those and look up. And do you recognize those, sir?
Yep.
And what do you recognize those?
Say it again.
What is in those photos?
A picture of me and my aunt and a picture of me by myself.
And do you recall sort of when those photographs were taken?
Yes, February 11th.
And why is it that you recall that, well, let me ask you this. As far as February 11th was concerned, where were you that day?
I was at my uncle's house.
Why were you at your uncle's house on that?
My cousin was coming home for leave from the Marine Corps, so we had a little gathering for him.
And just to be clear, when you say your uncle, you're talking about your uncle Brian Albert again?
Correct.
Your cousin that was coming home from the Marines, what's his name?
Jack Albert.
And so on that evening, you were over that house, is that correct?
Correct.
And the first picture in exhibit, I believe it's 82, is that correct? You and your aunt Nicole?
Correct.
And what's contained on there, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of sort of what you looked like as far as your arms, your hands, your face, all of those things on that date of February 11th?
Correct.
And the second photograph is again you by yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
And from that photograph, again, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
And from the second photograph in, if you know, where was that taken within the home of your uncle?
In the library at 34 Fairview.
And again, that library or any of the other rooms within the house beyond the kitchen, the dining room, or possibly the restroom, did you go into any other areas of the house on that night of January 28th into January 29th?
No.
I approach this to retrieve your
Yes.
One moment, John.
Jerry, it depends on why you're asking. If you're asking why is it important for the state to be showing this, it's not at all. Well, the reason that they're going through all of this is to disprove what the state thinks that the defense is going to be insinuating during their case in chief, which is that the people in this house somehow caused John O'Keefe's death. I mean, that's been the entire case thus far.
Yeah.
We've seen no evidence of Karen Reed doing. I mean,
Mr. Albert,
this is her trial.
Last question. When it came to your arrival at 34 Fairview Road on the evening of, or the early morning of January 29th, when you were leaving, beyond your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, did you see anybody else older than yourself or anybody else related to that group come into the house that evening?
No.
Thanks. I have nothing further.
Mr. Jackson, do you want to begin or wait until the morning?
It probably makes more sense to wait until tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Albert, I'm going to wait until the jurors leave, and then you can follow them.
Okay.
All right, jurors, I do have to caution you, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Do not do any independent
Quiet, please.
research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Tomorrow's a half day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Court, all rise.
You know, I was just thinking, I guess it kind of makes sense for the prosecution in the sense that you want to end your case telling the jury why she did it, as opposed to ending your case with what, you know, what they're doing now. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a reason why they would do it this way. I don't know.
Dude, right. I mean, look, we went through it with Murdoch. You know, it was like, it was 3 weeks of the financials. We were all saying, when the hell are they going to like get to murder? It's like, it's kind of the same vibe, other than the fact that like the financials in that case were actually pertinent in terms of,
right.
you know,
Do you need me for anything? Any
being
evidentiary
ultimately
issues, any
prove their
exhibits
case,
that
whereas this,
we,
none of this
need to go through
is
to
at
avoid
all
sidebar time
relevant
tomorrow?
to, you know, what is going on with the underlying case against
Okay,
Karen Reed.
we
It's
will
just,
start at 9
the
o'clock.
jury's got
tomorrow
to be confused.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Court, all
And
rise.
today is the first day where they heard the feds. How much do you think an
Yeah.
impact that has on them?
Bye.
No, the jury has got to be completely lost because they don't have any idea how all of this stuff fits together. If they're not following, you know, the pretrial stuff online, they have no idea what any of this stuff means, why any of it's relevant, because they've made this weird decision to do a pre-buttal case, you know,
Right.
and just try to anticipatorily shoot down what they think is coming from the defense. But by doing that at the expense of making their own case, I can't imagine the jury has any idea what they're supposed to be making of any of this.
They can't know what any of this means. And so Tim's got an interesting point here, which I discussed, like, I think on our live and then on STS last night. You know, the case against Karen being made is the impossibility of any alternatives. I respectfully disagree with that. Like, I think there are other alternatives which don't necessarily involve anybody in that house doing anything, at least any humans doing anything to John O'Keefe. I think that there are other possibilities, and that's not how you prove a case. You know, like, it can't be, well, their thing didn't work, so ours must be right. I mean, we don't want verdicts in criminal cases coming in based on the fact that we just don't think whatever the defense is saying is what happened. So that means what the state is saying must have happened. I mean, it's just, that's a scary proposition to me.
Well, and I think it's such an interesting point because this is actually, it's quite a role reversal from what I'm accustomed to. See, as the defense attorney, that's typically what I am doing is I am looking for reasonable alternatives that I can pitch to the jury because I can sell them on, if this is a viable explanation for the evidence that you've seen that is not consistent with the state's theory of guilt, that's reasonable doubt. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
And so, you know, you can often come up with a lot of possibilities, and that's really the key distinction, like you're saying, between the defense role here and the prosecution role here, is that the prosecution role isn't about possibilities. It's about being able to establish something pretty close to definitively.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that Tim is onto something here with that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to pre-eliminate the defense alternatives that are going to be pitched. But the problem is that's not a full universe. I mean, I think like you're saying, none of this rules out the possibility that something that nobody has anticipated at all is what actually happened, you know, to John O'Keefe. It was a snowplow guy. It was some random guy in the yard. He got attacked by a stray dog that wasn't Chloe. I mean, it was a pig. It was the you know, the neighbor's potbelly. I mean,
like, my thing is that he slipped on the driveway coming out, crushed the back of his skull. Because when you look at it like a double feet under, you know, coming from underneath you, that's exactly what it would look like, and that's exactly where his head would be injured, you know. And then the owl comes and fucks his arm up. Who knows? You know, it's like, I mean, are there owls indigenous to that area? I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
But
I'll
yeah,
say, one thing that has always bothered me about the autopsy photo. I am not a medical expert by any stretch of the imagination at all, but I've certainly had to deal with that type of evidence and those types of experts and stuff. And one of the things that's always bothered me about the arm is that it's got all of these very deep contusions and these cuts basically, but there doesn't seem to be any swelling. There doesn't seem to be any bruising. And, from what I've dealt with medical experts, that's commonly what you look for to distinguish between this is a pre-mortem injury versus a post-mortem injury. So everything else being equal, I look at this arm, this looks post-mortem. This doesn't look like something that happened while he's still alive, and those inflammatory processes are going to start to swell that thing up and fill it up with bruising and stuff like that. Now, I mean, I don't know. There can certainly be other explanations. It's in the snow, snow and cold and ice and stuff like that can help retard that, as Amber Heard taught us all. Ice will fix all of those kinds of injuries. But yeah, it's just I don't know if that's a possible thing that could come up in the course of the testimony, just when we get into the nitty gritty of what his actual condition was and what can that tell us about what led him to be there on that lawn.
yeah, and that's a super interesting point that you bring up, because it immediately makes me think about like kind of the post-mortem of the West Memphis 3 case, where, at trial, they were saying that the injuries to the kids, that they were assuming that they were part and parcel of some kind of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like as the appeals start working their way through in the Post-Conviction Relief Act stuff, they start coming to think, well, this is probably turtles that had caused this damage post-mortem. And that's a really, like, maybe the owl thing's not crazy, or any kind of wildlife comes
Coyote.
upon John O'Keefe while he's laying there. And, so yeah, that's like, I hadn't even thought of that. Thank you. That really cements my theory. Now I'm completely convinced.
It was an owl.
It was an owl, and he's flipping
No.
correct his head.
I just want to say, I see a ton of people saying how much they love your analysis, Andrea. Thank you so much for being, guys. Please,
Hey,
if
my
you're here,
pleasure.
follow all those links, and it'll be in the description in the in the after show if you're watching on the replay crew. And one thing I want to say is I saw someone said that I'm shouting down people. I apologize if I came a little hot. I didn't mean to. We always say we respect everyone's opinions as long as they're respectful. I didn't mean to do that. If I did, I'm sorry. And I did want to say, the one thing I Bob, you've talked about this, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, Andrea. How are they going to prove that if they can prove that the car hit this man, that she murdered, that she purposely had intent? What evidence are they going to show? And don't, like Bob has said before, don't talk about the voicemails. People get drunk and get fight. They don't kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think they have what evidence could they possibly show that means that she wanted to do this? I just, that seems the hardest part to me.
It's going to have to be an analysis that I think that inheres in the act itself. It's one of those, you intend the logical and probable consequences of your actions types of arguments, because they're going to argue if there was a deliberate, reversal of this car for a great distance at a high speed, that shows an intent to hit him and kill him. That you would know if you struck somebody at that speed that you were going to kill him, and there's no skid mark, so she didn't brake, so she was trying to hit him. That's, I think, how they're going to have to flesh out that theory, because they don't really have anything else to work with. Like you're pointing out, from a motive standpoint, there's just really not a lot there to hang their hats on.
Yeah, and how are they gonna, like, I don't know what kind of like black box type of intel they'll have about the Lexus and its movements. I mean, again, like I refer to Murdoch a lot because like that was one of the cases where they really relied on metadata and phone data and GPS and OnStar and all the different things that we have at our disposal to kind of know what is going on with vehicles. I would have to assume that with a newer model Lexus, that some of that has to be accessible. I mean, are we going to see it? Like I've looked through the state's list, and I'm not necessarily seeing an expert from any of those companies that I might expect to bring in that. Like, how are they going to prove that she went into reverse ever?
Well, I think they're getting this from the state police, some of the state police people that I forget what the acronym is for that unit, CARS or something like that. The unit for the accident response people. And that's been pretty common in my experience when a state is prosecuting a motor vehicle related accident. Often it is the state police. They're the ones out on the highways investigating this stuff all the time. That often are the ones getting that data and analyzing it and stuff. My questions are really going to go to what is the source of that, and how direct is this inference that she was driving at these speeds in these directions over these distances? Is it something where we have specific like GPS data that is going to show us a movement from, precise location A to precise location B? Or is it something that we are inferring simply from the existence of other data that we are able to access? Because we know the wheels were turning at this rate, the engine was, accelerating at this RPM, and that type of thing, then we can perform a calculation and infer that it would have been like this, because that's just a lot more sketchy, especially when you're dealing with like icy road conditions. I can very easily see a situation where she is starting to, get ready to leave, get ready to get out of the area, and your wheels slip as you're starting to go,
Or fishtail, or
Yeah.
whatever the case
Or
may
you
be.
fishtail. It takes a minute for you to get your grip and go. And so if that type of information is being picked up, it's not necessarily going to be the greatest inference then, as it would be compared to, clear dry road types of conditions.
Yeah, and I have like in like most modern cars, we have that anti-slip thing where it's like
Mhm.
you either have it on or you have it off. I'm assuming that again that the data that's going to be accessible to somebody in terms of whether or not that was activated during that course of the night. Hey baby, how's school? So yeah, it's fascinating. Like again, it was another day. Give me a quick. How's the field trip?
Good.
So it was another day where, like the state just really didn't move the needle,
Mm-mm.
with respect
What I
to
think would be great, and I popped on here just to say,
Mhm.
is that if the defense completely shifted gears and like didn't blame Colin, and like all of this was for a total waste, and they just went like a different route with it, that would just,
right. And they have
That would be awesome.
absolutely every right to do that. They have no
Yeah.
obligation to put on anything that the state thinks that they're putting on at all.
right.
It
That-
just
that-
it goes back to this, what I think is just a fundamental strategic error the Commonwealth has made here by calling all of these witnesses that don't have anything to add substantively to prove to me that Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe with a car. And all they're doing is providing opportunities for the defense to point out, here's your shady stuff that you were doing. Here's the inconsistencies between all your versions of events. That stuff is kind of normal and predicted. We talked on my stream yesterday about Rashomon, it's an old Japanese film of just an event in the woods, and it's told from the perspective of all of the people involved, and everybody, of course, sees it differently. And that's life. I mean, people will always see an event differently, but they could have, had they waited for the defense to call these people, all of those inconsistencies wouldn't be reflecting poorly on the Commonwealth. It wouldn't be a situation where we'd be looking at your witnesses can't keep their stories straight. It would be a situation where the defense is calling these people, and there's just
panning
a
out.
variety of problems with what they have to say. So it's really a big own goal, I think, in so many ways, for them to have followed this strategy.
And it allowed the defense to get like all this stuff in without it having to be their case. They technically, I mean, I almost hope they do revamp the entire
Yeah.
defense.
I
And
think that's brilliant, Allie. I think they totally should do that. They should drop the specifics altogether.
that's the risk of doing a pre-buttal case.
Yeah.
Like you're
Pre-buttal,
making
right.
this. That's like totally stole that from Andrea. So but that's what's been going on. You know what I mean? It's like they've taken this calculated risk, and they're just assuming that this is what the defense is going to do. Yeah, that would be amazing if they did that. What a
Yeah.
mind fuck that would be.
I love it. Total head fake. Total
Right.
head fake.
Hey, you need to slip in Jackson's DMs, Allie, and say, hey, have you thought about the concept of completely changing your theory of defense? Now that, yeah. So, well, I thought it was definitely an interesting day. Andrea, you're awesome. You're brilliant. I love having you guys on here together with you and Allie. It's just so much fun, especially if you're like a legal nerd like me. So I really appreciate it. And just know you have a standing invite. We'd love to have you come back during the trial. We know that you're streaming some days on your channel, but if there's a day that's open, hit me up. We'd love to have you back for sure.
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate the invite. I loved having the chance to finally sit down and talk to you guys face to face. You kind of get to know people over the Twitter sphere, but it's
Yep.
just it's a different universe.
Totally.
So definitely enjoyed this and really appreciate the invite. Let's do it again.
Definitely. And everybody, make sure you're going and subbing over to both her Twitter and her YouTube channel because they're both phenomenal. And it's all Andrea Burkhart. We've got it. It's listed in the description, and we've been throwing the links in there. So make sure you guys are subbing. And you're the best.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So another like interesting day. Just another day that really didn't like move things forward for the state.
We'll be back in session.
Agree.
Court's back in session.
Court is back.
Is that a sound?
It switches over
you.
to
We'll go
like
ahead
if you
and-
keep it on,
I
it
mean-
switches. Like right now, it's probably showing stupid
It was-
Potato Head.
Yeah, it was Potato Head. So yeah, so we'll get the cross tomorrow. That could be lengthy. I mean,
Did you guys address these things?
We did.
All right.
We did that. Like that was right before you came in, and then somebody gave me some pushback. Like, so listen, my concept is like if he slips and cracks his head, that doesn't mean that he's like dead. Like you could slip and crack your head, get up and stumble to where he's finally found. I mean, that's.
I still think
possible.
Higgins, but I don't know anything other than the fact that they were.
So now we
making a
think
big
that
stink.
Higgins nailed him with his plow, his giant plow.
Yeah. I mean, I still do not understand. Like, I do not understand how he gets on the spot that he is, because it doesn't seem clear to me that what the state is saying is that he was starting to walk up the grass and then she put it in reverse and went over the curb and hit him. I don't understand how they're saying that happened, because that's where their pieces of taillight are. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelible.
Let me just say to the new people that I hopefully haven't alienated, that we've got some new folks. I will be on my channel tomorrow. If you want to come there, we'll be there tomorrow. It's a half day tomorrow. Again, I came in a little hot. I apologize. But I just
I don't think you need to apologize for jack shit.
I
dude.
feel bad. Someone said I was shouting down opinions, and I didn't. I never want people to feel that.
I don't
way.
think you were shouting. I think people that may not know, Jay and I were both passionate dudes. Never always take our tone with a grain of salt. We're excitable guys. People. We both are ranters. I mean, we're
criers. We're ranters and criers.
Exactly, ranters and criers. We're riers. So we love you. If you're new here, we love you. We hope that we brought you some good content. We hope that you'll end up subbing with us. Make sure you're subbing with Jay. And as he said, tomorrow we're over there. So we love you all. Thanks for hanging all day. Had a great crowd in here today. So it was really a lot of fun.
So don't forget to hit the like button on your way out.
Yes,
hit the stream like,
that thumbs up.
Yeah, the stream channel, like channel, whatever.
Kelly brings up a good point. We were just being silly. We're just silly guys. Just silly,
silly boys,
just silly gooses.
We are silly gooses. We're horse playing. Just a little bit of horseplay. Hit the like channel. Hit the like channel. All right, y'all.
My school had a field trip today.
Oh yeah.
We went
You want to tell the
Mega
people?
Fun Park.
Yes, mega.
Wait,
fun.
I can't understand you. Are you a small child or are you my daughter?
I'm gonna put you on mute.
Oh, so Mandy thought it might have been for another reason that I got very concerned about. That was having to do with something biological. So I was like, "Ooh." I forgot she was on the field trip. Nailed it.
No, she didn't want to take the bus because she had a headache, so she asked me to pick her up.
All right, we out. Love y'all.
No.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
See ya.